Trump's $6 billion education funding release. Impact on schools and policy. Imagine a scenario where over $6 billion in education funding is suddenly put on hold, leaving schools and students in a state of uncertainty. This is exactly what happened earlier this month when the Trump administration froze a substantial portion of education programming. However, in a recent turn of events, the administration has announced that it will be releasing the withheld funds. But here's where it gets interesting. The decision to release the funds comes after a tumultuous period of review and criticism from various advocacy groups. The $6 billion in question includes funding for crucial programs such as English language acquisition, teacher development, and adult education. According to a Department of Education spokesperson, the funds will be released starting the week of Monday, July 28, 2025. So far, several state education agencies, including those in Nebraska, Mississippi, Rhode Island, and Utah, have confirmed that they have received notification from the U.S. Department of Education regarding the release of the funds. The letter sent to states emphasizes that they are prohibited from violating federal laws, Office of Management and Budget regulations, and presidential executive orders when utilizing the funds. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon hinted at the possibility of releasing the funds by the end of the year in an interview with ABC News, stating that the administration wants to ensure it has the right focus on what it's trying to do with its students. The congressionally authorized education funding was under review to determine if programs were misusing government funds to promote a radical left-wing agenda. Various advocacy groups have welcomed the administration's decision to release the funds, but some have expressed concerns over the delay and the potential impact on FY 2026 funding. Skye Perryman, president and CEO of Democracy Forward, described the release as a major victory for public education and the communities it serves. However, Perryman also emphasized the need to continue monitoring the situation and working in court to ensure the administration fully complies with the law. National Parents Union President Carrie Rodriguez celebrated the hard-earned win, but also called out members of Congress who allowed the chaos to unfold. Montserrat Garibay, the advocacy chair for the National Association for Bilingual Education, welcomed the release of the funds, but expressed concerns over the future of Title III funding, which supports English learners. The skinny budget for FY26 eliminates Title III funding, which Garibay believes is essential for providing services to students and professional development for educators. The controversy surrounding the funding freeze has sparked a heated debate, with some arguing that the administration's decision to withhold funds was a politically motivated move. But here's the question. Was the decision to release the funds a genuine attempt to support education, or was it a strategic move to appease critics? And this is the part most people miss. The fact that the funding for next year is still not guaranteed, leaving schools and students in a state of uncertainty. As the school year begins, it's unclear how soon states will receive the additional education funding that was released. The announcement comes a week after the OMB unfroze over $1 billion in after-school and summer learning funds that had been under review. Many programs have already received the after-school and summer learning funding, but the future of education funding remains a topic of controversy. So we ask you, what do you think about the Trump administration's decision to release the withheld education funds? Do you believe it's a step in the right direction, or is it too little, too late? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Trump's $5 billion education fund released. What you need to know. Over $5 billion in frozen education grants set to unfreeze. What you need to know. Imagine a world where schools are left hanging, waiting for funds that could make a huge difference in students' lives. That's exactly what happened under the Trump administration, but now there's a twist in the tale that's bound to stir up some debate. The Department of Education has announced that over $5 billion in frozen education grant funding earmarked for states to use on initiatives such as teacher training and English language programs will be released in the coming weeks. This decision comes after a tumultuous period where the funds were suspended on June 30th by the Trump administration, pending a review by the Federal Office of Management and Budget, OMB. But here's where it gets controversial. The move to freeze these funds was met with widespread criticism and concern from both Democratic and Republican lawmakers who feared the impact on their districts. Lawsuits were filed by 24 states, the District of Columbia, and a coalition of teaching unions, school districts, and parents, all pushing for the release of these funds. On Friday, a spokesperson for the Department of Education, Maddie Bierman, confirmed that the funds had been unfrozen and would begin being paid out next week. The money, part of a larger sum of nearly $7 billion approved by Congress for education spending, was originally due to be released on July 1st. However, the Trump administration announced the freeze the previous day, claiming it was under review to ensure it wasn't being used to support a radical left-wing agenda. And this is the part most people miss. The funds were specifically earmarked for services such as migrant education, English language programs, and adult education, with $2.2 billion allocated for teachers' professional development. The administration has now stated that guardrails will be in place to ensure the released funds are not spent in violation of executive orders or administration policy. What do you think? Should the government be able to freeze education funding at will, potentially disrupting the lives of students and teachers? Or is this a necessary step to ensure accountability in how public funds are spent? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments below. The Supreme Court recently ruled that the Department of Education can proceed with plans to lay off nearly 1,400 workers, adding another layer of complexity to the situation. Earlier this year, the Trump administration had even considered abolishing the Department of Education entirely. What happens next? According to the Department of Education, payments from the unfrozen funds should start going out next week. As we navigate the murky waters of education funding, it's crucial to remember the impact these decisions have on real people's lives. The Department of Education is committed to journalism that's factual and fair. We encourage you to hold us accountable by rating this article on the Fairness Meter. And with a call to action. What do you think about the unfreezing of these education funds? Agree or disagree? Share your thoughts in the comments below.